Hello everyone, I'm your host Thomas28 and welcome back to The Winter Rescue. So I'm guessing that this episode is probably going to be a bit on the shorter side, mostly because I didn't want to end up making too much progress off screen. And that's mostly because I finished off some of the tech here so we could get up to the steelmaking crucible and build it on video. Mostly because once we have access to steel, you can see it opens up a lot more stuff. And I didn't just want to have next episode be like, okay, I built the steelmaking crucible, I built a bunch of stuff, now we can work towards the end game. I thought that'd be skipping too much stuff when we could just build the steelmaking crucible together. Now this should be everything you need to actually build this, minus a couple items. Actually no, I think that's everything, minus the create stuff. And we're going to build it right here. Now, I have my engineer's hammer. That's good. Now to build this, I believe the burning chambers are all on the bottom. They are. It's a 3x3, then a 3x3, then a 3x3 hollow, 3x3 hollow, and that's it. Perfect. So it's actually one of the easier ones. So just 3x3, and another 3x3, 3x3 hollow, and 3x3 hollow. Apart from these burning chambers, it's actually pretty cheap. Then hit it with a hammer to make the steel mill crucible. Put those away for now. Let's see. So I believe this is the side where you install your blast furnace preheater, like so. And then we do have to power this, and this is where it gets a little annoying, because the only way we can generate power right now is with our cast iron boiler. Well, what's it called? Cast iron steam engine. Which means we have to turn rotational force into power, which we can do via the LV wire connectors. I just got to get to the top of this. It's a little annoying. Because we have to put this guy here. And then, oh, I didn't make any relays. Relay. LV. Okay, more terracotta and copper ingots. That's really easy. Because I need to connect this guy, say, like right here. Actually, how does that look? Where does the rotational force go in? Let me take a look at this. So if we put it on the ground. Okay, rotational force goes in one side, energy out the other. Okay, so actually pretty easy. So I really shouldn't need a relay. Well, a relay would make it easier because then I could just kind of put it right here and then have the cable go up. But I guess it's just easier if I put it like right here for now. So if we do it right there, let's see, should be high enough, I believe. If we put you here, it's facing the wrong way, and let me see if I can rotate it. Who would rotate it like that? That is terrible. Okay, turn the other way. Nope. Nope. Nope, there we go. So now we should be able to just put the LV wire connector here, and then connect it. In reach, nice. Now you do always have to be careful with live wires as you can get electrocuted pretty easily. And now we just have to put rotational force into this, and I wonder how much energy it produces. Now if I remember correctly, if we take a look at the quest book here, we have to use coal coke. Items can be automatically input from the top or thrown into the crucible. Products are exported from the upper half of the side and fuels input from the combustion chamber below. From the upper half of the side. The upper half of the side. Well, this is this. Items go inside. Is there a thing under it I'm supposed to be looking at? Or is this... How do you put the fuel inside automatically? The back slot for the preheater. And then there's 3 slots here, but they're all the same height. And I guess it doesn't really matter too much right now because we only need to use this to make steel, and we don't have the energy production to make it fully automatic anyway. So steel ingot. Steel mill crucible, and to make steel we need iron ingots and flux. Temperature 1500 degrees Celsius, so pretty easy craft. The difficulty is coming in via power generation. That's going to be the difficult part. Now to actually hook this up together, I don't really need this right now, as I only needed it to do some rubber production. Because I do want to build a little factory for my next step after we produce steel. So I think I can shift all this around, at least for now. So I'm going to need these guys and some shafts. See, I should have some more shafts in the chest over here. Shaft. There we go, shaft. And grab my food. And we should be able to route the power over here. So we could just use a vertical gearbox here. That's an LV wire connector. Shaft, vertical gearbox here. Then bring the shafts around this way. And then remove this guy and this guy. Gearbox and gearbox to go over here. Engage the clutch. How much fuel do we have? Okay, perfect. And this should generate power. Let's see how much we can actually get out of this. Okay, we're producing 19 Fe per tick, so it's not bad. Now, I need coal coke. I should have a bunch in the chest, because I just took out, yep, there we go, coal coke. Now we need iron and flux. Do I have flux in here? Alright, took a day of mining, but we got our flux. So now, if we put our coal coke in here, flux and iron ingots, it's working. I'm so dumb. The preheater is to preheat, which means it just gets up to temp faster. I'm silly. Anyways, since I already set it up, might as well use it. Engage the clutch, turn on the engine, and then disengage the clutch. Yada yada, there we go. There we go. Preheater turns on. Gets up to heat faster. Yeah, because this has to hit how much? 1500 degrees Celsius. And it should be pretty fast. So let's see, we're at 900, almost 1000. Yeah, and the preheater just lets you keep it at the high heat, from what I remember, right? Or I believe it is needed, because I think that's in here. Only when a blower is provided, the steelmaking crucible can start working. But it was kind of working without it, so I'm not sure what that's on about. And it's extremely annoying. I think it's the sound of this. Yeah, I'm not sure if we can actually get enough power from this. Well, this guy generates 2000, so technically we could make it go faster. And there we go. Okay, that sound is a lot cleaner now, which is very nice. So I had to ramp this up all the way up to 96 RPM. Now if we take a look, okay, it's actually heating up very fast now. But for it to turn into steel, oh, there it goes. So now for it to turn into steel, it's going to be extremely slow. Well, this is extremely annoying, because if I have to run it like this is extremely expensive. Because you can see, I put in a stack. We've already burned 5 coal coke before we have even produced a single piece of steel. And there's no other way to make steel yet. Which means I just have to burn tons of fuel to get this going. Which is crazy. Let's see, because this is cast iron. Well, if we make a steel one, we could ramp up the RPM even faster. But that doesn't make this go any faster, right? Yeah, this won't make it go any faster. So now we have our first piece of steel, and we're going to let that run for a while. Ferrous steel, quest completed. Because now we can go into let humanity, control again. Get a little bit of coal coke. The foundation for large-scale industrialization. Now you can try to build a new generator. And we need this for a ton of stuff. So this guy, the reinforced blast furnace, we can't make steel out of that. We have to use the steel-making furnace. But the big thing we can get here is now we can make the steel steam engine, the steel flywheel, and the steel burning chamber. But the even bigger thing, we come out over here, at our drawing desk, I want to get the high-pressure steamworks, and to make this, I need steel sheet metal. 6 of it, in fact, and to get steel sheet metal, we need 4 steel plates. So in order to make this, I need, and we don't have this yet, this would be 1-to-1. So we need 6. I have to do this 3 times. I need 9 steel ingots to make this. And with the high pressure steamworks, what this does is it'll let us use our tier 2 generator to actually push energy around like these guys over here. Like this guy. So this entire device can be made into a single 1-block object via the high pressure steamworks. No, what's it called? Reveals after. I can view it from in here. Day of the generator. This guy, the steam core. The steam core can generate as much SU as this bronze guy without needing this full setup, which is where we can actually start automating some stuff. And he turned off, so now this is turning to permafrost, and I'm losing my trees. Nice. So annoying. I think I'm just gonna have to do this later. Like, they make it seem like, oh, once you get access to the generator, you can start doing crops really easily. But it's so difficult just to keep it full of fuel all the time, because you can't really automate the cutting of trees for a long time. But now that we're producing steel, I'm going to have to let this run for a while to get a bunch of steel. So while we do that, I want to set up my production for these guys. Sawdust briquettes. Because now that we have access to steel, I can go ahead and make these steam chargers. We didn't need steel for these, but we do needed steam pipes. I believe that's what they're called. Yeah, these things, heat pipes. Heat pipes from the tier 2 generator to get this running. And to actually power this little automation I'm going to set up, I needed steel so we can get the steam core, and without the steam core researched, I can't do it. But I can build the full thing before we can actually power it. So, did I put, I did. Gearboxes, crushing wheels, shaft, chest, and did I put chutes in here? I did not put any chutes. Okay, I can add the chutes later. So let me walk you through what we're going to do. Essentially, we want to automate the full process of making a sawdust briquette, which is pretty easy, as it takes basically 4 main parts. So, did I put blocks in here? I did not. Okay, we're going to have to use these spruce logs for now. So, starting with the crushing wheels, we're going to put the crushing wheels right here. One goes there. Actually, that's a little too short, right? Yeah, I need to go one taller. So, crushing wheel goes here. Gearbox, shaft, gearbox, crushing wheel. And let me remove these logs. Now, these crushing wheels are going to take something like a spruce log and break it down into sticks, sawdust, and biomass, all stuff you can use. Then we're going to take the sticks and we're going to crush them again into more sawdust. This means from a single oak log, we get, on average, so one oak log has a 50% chance to get 8. So it means on average you get around 4 sawdust per log, but each stick can be crushed again for a 40% chance, so it's a little bit higher. So we're going to crush those in here, and I don't have the chutes, which are annoying, but I guess I forgot that. Let me grab the belts. And actually, let me grab the chutes real quick. Alright, grab the chutes. So one chute goes down here, the other one goes on top. Man, I should have really brought some more building supplies with me. That's fine. Chute goes here. Chest. So now all of our oak or spruce, all the logs essentially, are going to go in that chest. And there's not really a good way to automate putting the logs into the chest. So once I have a tree farm, that's when I'll automate going into that chest there. Then we have this guy here, and I think that's too close. So actually, let me dig into the floor a bit. Do this, do that, turn you, and then connect it with a mechanical belt. Like so. So, this is going to let us take our logs and turn it into those 3 items. Now, we do need a depot, which is why I put the tunnel here. And we'll put it right here. Oh, I need to make a filter. Filter. I can add that later. So a filter is just iron nuggets and string. Okay, very easy. And this is going to filter. So we're going to have our logs. We have to have 2 things here. We're going to have the sawdust travel in this direction again. Like so. So logs go in. Sticks and biomass go this way. Sawdust goes this way. The sawdust then needs to be mixed in a basin with these presses. And I should be able to just do this. And if I knew I was going to have to dig into the floor, I would have built this a little bit taller. Like so. So now that'll go in there. Press goes on top. And we're going to have a creosote oil go in here, because if you take a look at the sawdust briquette, creosoted sawdust briquette, we can mix 4 sawdust with 25 millibuckets of creosote oil to make a creosoted sawdust briquette, which is why I have these coke bricks. So we're going to put the thing, let's see, if this is going, we can have it go that way actually. So we can go ahead and build these right here. We add 2 coke ovens over here. Technically, I could have just pulled it from there, but I designed it with them on this side, so it just makes it easier for me. We're going to grab our fluid pipes and mechanical pumps, and we're going to pump out the creosote oil, like so, and put it into the basin. And make sure these are set to pull instead of push. There we go. So now we can add a little bit of spruce log in there. So now creosote oil will get pulled out of the coke ovens and go into the basin. Then we just pull those items out. And I think for this to actually go onto the conveyor belt, I think I have to go 1 deeper again. Because I think, yeah, you have to go 1 deeper. I always forget that when I'm building these kind of things. Because you can go like this, do that, make sure it's going the right way. Do this. There we go. So now our creosoted sawdust briquettes are going to come out of there onto this conveyor belt, and that's where we're going to put them into the steaming machine to make them into sawdust briquettes. Now for right now we can use the smoker. It's not the best, but it works, which is why I have this andesite funnel and the smoker here. So we get the smoker right there, funnel. So actually from the side will that work? I don't think it'll actually work from the side, right? Because this is a vanilla item, and for vanilla items it has to go in at the top, which means I have to go even lower. Or I could just make this go up, right? I think I can do that, right? So if I do this guy here, mechanical belt, and then I do this guy here, and then we do right there. We can connect this there to go up. So now I can dig out over here. Put the smoker, this spot, funnel there. So now it should funnel into here, right? I think that works. Set U to input. Then we just have to keep fuel in here, and these sawdust briquettes will go inside. Now we just have to connect all of this into some kind of, what is it, SU production. And once connected to SU, it should work. Now, it's really not that difficult in terms of how much stuff you have to connect to, but I think for this you want to start using cast iron cogs. One, because they're pretty cheap since it's just iron with an extra step of processing. Steel is technically iron with an extra step of processing, but because it's so expensive to actually produce, I'm not sure how viable it's going to be yet until I get the actual automation going. So let me connect all of this, and there we go. It's fully connected. Now, of course, my only worry is that these guys are going to spin in the wrong direction, but nothing a gearbox can't fix. So it should function now. And I did use a hand crank just to test some of the smaller portions. So the sawdust does go in, the creosote oil goes in. The only issue is the spacing. What I think I have to do is one of 2 things. One, to get it to work right now and be fully automatic, I either have to move this guy over there or get all of these shafts to go in that direction. And I think I'm going to start with that one. Now, I did math it out, and the total stress needed to run this guy, I believe, is like 1,000, maybe 1,200, assuming it's running at a regular amount of RPM, which I think is like 16 RPM. So I'm not actually sure what speed it comes out of the flywheel, because if it runs faster, then it's going to use even more stress units, which is annoying. Something really annoying about this pack is how everything uses SU. Like if you look at the belt, even the belt has a kinetic stress impact equal to 0.05 of the RPM, which is annoying. Like originally I was thinking of using these guys, the chain drive, but these guys have a stress impact of 0.1. So unless there's like a really good case where I need to do like a bunch of them in a line, I can't see why that would be feasible over just using more belts like this, because they're half the amount of stress. So anyways, I think I can go ahead and connect it. Let me steal these gearboxes, these shafts. And we should be able to connect it by running a cable this way. Vertical. Vertical gearbox. There we go. Connect this, connect that. We should be able to run it all the way down here. And luckily shafts don't use any. If they used it, I think I would lose my mind. Connect you here, and then we'll disconnect you for now. And it looks like using one whole stack of coal coke got us 18 steel ingots. That's how expensive it is to actually run. So now if we throw the coal coke in here, and then we engage the clutch, throw that in there, and cold start the engine, we should be able to see the machine turn on. Okay, everything's cranking. Let's see if the crushing wheels are going the right direction, and they are. Perfect. So now if we grab some of our spruce from all the way over here, spruce, we should see if it works correctly. So, spruce logs go in here, they get taken out, they get grinded. Okay, there it goes. Biomass, sticks, and sawdust. Biomass and sticks go over here. Sawdust goes into the basin. Creosoted logs come out into the smoker. Now we just have to put fuel in here, which we can technically use these sticks for. And the creosoted sawdust briquettes turn into sawdust briquettes. And sawdust briquettes are really good because a sawdust briquette is essentially charcoal. So what we're doing is essentially making charcoal without having to actually burn anything. Technically we are burning stuff because this is making charcoal over here. Which means technically I could have a chute pull the charcoal out of here to feed this for now. But we're going to have this steam powered in a second. Well, not in a second, like by next episode. Well, not next episode. It's going to be steam powered once we unlock the steel prerequisites. You know what I mean? But now we have sawdust briquettes. And this is essentially what we're going to use to power the furnace. Well, not the furnace, power the generator once we have a fully automated tree farm. It's a pretty small machine compared to, you know, what else you could build and create. You could probably make it more compact, but you really don't need to. It's just really annoying that all of this uses stress, because you could see this is 1.6, 1.6, 1.6, the belt 1.6, more 1.6, everything 1.6, 1.6. It adds up, which is really annoying. It makes it a lot more difficult to figure out how you're going to manage the machines. And looks like we're all out of creosote oil, which is probably the main bottleneck in this guy, is you have to keep these coke ovens. They don't have to be full, but they do need a lot of logs as well. So an easier way to do it would probably be if you have, once you have a fully automatic tree farm producing tons of wood, just have another one of these brass tunnels set to round robin. One pushes it into the output and the other one into these coke ovens here. Because the coke ovens are very slow, so they're going to use their oak logs or whatever logs much slower than this guy's going to process them. But then once you have them, you could just take these sticks and you could put it back in there for processing, because it'll just make more sawdust. Now, this episode has not really gone on quite long enough, but it sets us up for some more of the feature. I mostly have to use, well, not use, I mostly just have to feed this guy with a lot of fuel so we can get some more steel, because right now steel is going to be the biggest bottleneck. Everything we're going to need is going to take a bunch of steel, which is really annoying. Tungsten steel. Interesting. Wonder how you get that. Regardless though, now that we have access to steel, I can start working on the steam core research, because that was dependent entirely on having steel processed. Yep, there we go. And once this is done and I can build some, we can actually use this to run that little creosote operation over there. I believe this should be strong enough to handle the SU needed by that setup. And then by combining the high pressure steamworks thingamabob with some of the other technology we can unlock via steel, I might be able to finally build a fully automatic tree farm to fully automate the generator. Well, 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 looks like the video didn't end after all. Because after today's video, on Friday, I have actually been sponsored to do a playthrough of a brand new mod pack that the name will be hidden for now. Actually, I don't think the name has to actually be hidden because it's going to drop the same day that that video drops, and it's already been publicly announced. So I have been sponsored to play Cryogenic Simulation. I'm so excited. It's my very first sponsor on the channel, and it's to play Minecraft. Isn't that phenomenal? The mod pack is actually made by a I would say is pretty well known developer, Iteration Funk. You may know him from his very popular mod, Deep Mob Learning, which you know has been in almost every mod pack I've played. Well, tech-related mod pack, none of the survival ones. He's the one that came out with his new mod pack, Cryogenic Simulation, so May 8th, Friday, be there or be square. Anyways though, so to end off episode 8 of the Winter Rescue, before I jumped into that, I wanted to show you what I spent the better part of my Sunday working on. Ta-da! It's the fully automatic tree farm. I've finally done it. We have fully automated stage 2 of the factory. And all we needed... Where is it? One's over here. All we needed was the steam core. Because now, using the tier 2 generator, we can produce steam and use the steam to power these steam cores, which produce 1024 SU. And now that we can produce produce SU at a much cheaper rate, we can actually start doing some large-scale automation. So all of this stuff over here, I still have to run using the flywheels. But technically, I do have enough energy production left over to install one more steam core to get all of those machines up and running. I just don't need to yet, mostly because at the point I'm at, and let me show you what I mean, like this stuff for circuits. To make a circuit, I need to set up, I need to set up a production line for this kind of stuff, as you could see here, which means it's going to take a lot more, stress? Well, not stress, but it's going to take a lot more work. So I'm going to set that up like probably on this side and maybe extend out over the river, as I already extended off this way, so we can actually start automating that stuff. And it's going to be pretty much needed for the next tier of research, because I'm at the point where all the research I want, so if we go to sintering, industrial squeezer, industrial structures, like this, we need servo cores, and a servo core, we need one of them, is crafted from a circuit backplane with this stuff, which is made from that. So we're going to need a pretty big large-scale production line to actually get into the next tier of technology, which is pretty cool. It's, you know, it's funny. Usually at this point, other mod packs give you access to some kind of like really overpowered void miner to start processing, well, not processing, to start gathering a lot of resources. But we're not at that point yet, and I don't even know if that's in the pack. So you still are required to go out mining, which I kind of like, because it's been such a long time since I've actually had to explore the world and go mining. And I did finally figure out what the insight is for. So if we take a look at like this one, you get 5 insight. The insight is actually related to the research. I never noticed it at first, but actually you can run out of insight, and if you run out, you can't do research, which is actually pretty interesting from a gameplay perspective, because all of these branch lines here usually reward insights. So once you run out of like the easy ones that you get via the quests, you do have to go, exploring to finish out these other ones to get more insight, so you can actually finish the progression, which I thought is pretty cool. Now, if you do go walking around in the world, you do seem to get a pretty good amount of insight just by doing that. So I did go exploring pretty far. Let's see. Yeah, I went over here to the sand for the desert. I went to a deep ocean to get the insight from there. And then all the way over here, where is it? You might be able to see it. It's somewhere over here in this area, but this is actually a bone biome, which had a ton of, oh, here it is. There's the bone biome. Fossil deposits, where I was able to get a bunch of bones, which was pretty useful. But that all culminated into me getting enough research points so I could build the fully automatic spruce farm. So to show you how it works, I'm going to jump into spectator mode. That way we can actually fly around and see it, because building it took me like an hour. and just designing it was really annoying. I was trying to decipher blueprints from 2023 on how to get this working, and it's finally working. Alright, so now we're in spectator mode, and here's the full farm as you can see here. Now, it is a shame I had to pretty much tear off the roof of the building, but I really didn't have a choice. So the entire way it works is the steam generator. So I have our mud a block above it. I was running all the simulations, and generally a tree farm is the best when you use oak, because oak grows in a straight line generally, and you can plant the entire field with oak, and it's really good. But if you take a look here at oak, oak grows the fastest between 12 degrees Celsius and 24. It can grow between 5 and 32, but it's also vulnerable to snow and blizzards, whereas the spruce ones are not. I think they're just vulnerable to blizzards. Spruce. Yeah, they're just vulnerable to blizzards, which was really annoying. I found that you really can't make a fully automatic oak tree farm that's fast enough to keep supplying it, because oak grows too slow unless you get it up to 12 degrees Celsius. But the only way you can get it up to 12 degrees Celsius is if you pump this guy full of steam. Right now, this guy is being pumped full of water, and that's what we're using as our heat medium to generate our power. And you do get more power if you use steam, but in testing, I can't actually fully support a steam-powered system until we get a lot more advanced technology. Like the create pipes just aren't fast enough to supply it with steam, even if you use a steel boiler. So now, let's get into how it works. It's actually pretty simple for a tree farm design. So it's tileable. Pretty much you start with a saw and a deployer, filter to the spruce sapling, and you leave a gap in the middle for the mud. You put the deployer pointing upwards into the mud block so it can place a sapling, and you have the saw facing either, north or south to cut the logs. But if you've ever built a tree farm before, you know it could be really annoying because the saw will only saw towards the direction it's moving. So the saws are moving into this log, so they're going to start cutting it. But then, once it gets over here, the problem you usually find is when it turns around and moves this way, if there's trees behind it, the saws are facing the wrong way. They'll never cut it. So the way to solve this is actually using a block I've never used in any other playthrough, and it is the immersive engineering turntable. This guy has like zero use in 99.99999% of cases, and this is the single case where it's actually really useful. Because all the turntable does is when this guy reaches this block and stops to send the signal to tell it to turn around, all the turntables do is they receive a redstone signal that activates them, and it turns the mechanical saw 180 degrees to face the other direction, so when it starts moving in this direction, it can do another sweep of all the trees without having to get all the way over here, which is phenomenal. Now, they're actually not even that expensive if you take a look, as the turntable is made from treated wood, iron, redstone, and copper coil blocks. Copper coil blocks are made from cast iron and LV wires. They're actually not even that expensive because of how plentiful copper is. But in the early game, you can build this kind of setup without all the turntables. All you have to do is kind of stagger your saws, so one would face north, the other one south. That way you would at least get some coverage as they go back and forth. But with this design, you pretty much get, using spruce, this is pretty much a 50% efficient tree farm because we're using 50% of the space for saplings. Once we can support oak, it's a 100% efficient tree farm because every single source that we can grow on is going to be used to cut trees. Usually if you use a staggered saw method, oh, you're going to see it swap right here, watch. And swap. It's beautiful. I love it. It's so simple too. I was worried that I was really annoyed at you can't really do other methods. Like if you take a look here, because generally the method I use for tree farms is always using the mechanical bearing, which is this guy here. But in this pack, you can't actually craft a mechanical bearing until pretty late in the pack because they substituted the recipe with a heavy engineering block, which you need the research to get, and that research comes at pretty much like the end of the research tree, at least for tier 2 for a while. So you are meant to build this kind of gantry tree farm, which is why they give you access to the gantry research pretty often and pretty soon. So once all the logs are harvested, they come out over here where they get pulled out via the portable storage interface. I have it filtered so it leaves in the saplings. Now eventually this will fill up with saplings, so you can set up something to like take them out or just do it automatically yourself. It doesn't really matter. I have a buffer chest that then feeds into this buffer chest where it holds the spruce, goes down into the crushing wheels turn it into sawdust. I upgraded this with 2 mechanical presses. Comes down here where it gets shooted out into this buffer chest, and it gets pushed over here to this depot. Now it is annoying if you look here. I have this magma block because I don't know if netherrack actually exists in this world. If it does, I haven't seen it, and there's no way to get it otherwise. So I'm not sure if I've just been unlucky and I haven't found any, but magma blocks do kind of work like netherrack in that if you light it on fire, it stays lit on fire for a pretty long time. So I just have to come over here and relight it every once in a while because magma blocks will get too cold and turn off, and then you have to wait for it to warm back up. But then it smokes the creosoted sawdust briquette into the sawdust briquette. It goes all the way over here to our spruce drawer where we store the sawdust briquettes. Now we have 670 of these. They get funneled up into the generator, and the exporting generated ash is pulled out. And then altogether, it's fully automatic with 100% uptime, minus during blizzards. During blizzards, some of these saplings do die, so you do have to take care to overclock the generator to keep the heat up. So hopefully you don't get too unlucky with a very long, with a super long blizzard that wipes out all the saplings. But generally over time, it should be able to keep up sapling production long enough that it doesn't matter too much. And since you do generate quite a lot of excess saplings, like we take a look over here. Oh, I can't because this is a contraption. Since you do generate a lot of excess saplings, even if a blizzard wipes out all of these, it should still have enough saplings left over to completely replant the whole thing, which is really good. Now, I do have to come out of spectator mode to actually show this because this is where it gets really annoying. So this entire setup runs off of a single steam core, and if we come out over here, I can show you why. This gantry carriage is using 837 SU at the current speed. In this mod pack, gantry carriages and any other contraption uses SU. It's not free infinite SU, and that's what's honestly so annoying about designing anything. Like, the whole setup I have over there for making the sawdust briquettes is insane. I have to manually slow things down so that we can actually handle the SU because everything uses SU. So let me fall down here real quick. Ouch. I can show you just what I'm talking about. So if we come down here, here's a belt. The belt uses SU. Gearboxes are used by SU. Everything uses SU. You want to move stuff up and down with vertical gearboxes? It uses SU. So it actually makes calculations really annoying. Because instead of going, oh, this generates 1024 SU, a crushing wheel, and a set of crushing wheels will use like 516, so I can speed them up. You know, the math is really easy. The math is not easy anymore because all of these little cogs use stress in very small amounts, which throws off the math, which is really annoying. But at least it does work well, pretty good. Now let me grab these sticks so I can relight this guy. There we go. Do our cooking, which means you have to really manage how much SU your entire machine is using. Like something like the encased fan, I only need it to blow a single block so I can really slow it down, because having it go faster only increases the range. It doesn't make it work faster. So stuff like that is a no-brainer, but managing everything else is so difficult. It's really annoying. But I am quite proud of myself for actually getting to this point where it's fully automatic. I did remember seeing some people in the comments mention how no matter how long they played, they could never get it to be fully automatic, which I found quite annoying. But as you could see, this is technically what you're supposed to do. So at this point, I do have enough energy left over to power one more steam core, which is going to be used to set up some assembly lines for the next tier of research. But other than that, it's pretty good. I would say I'm pretty satisfied with where we're at. Now there is more research you can unlock to increase the fuel efficiency of the generator and do stuff like that if we take a look over here. So you can see you can make the generator 10% more efficient with the fuel. You can make whatever this is. You can generate 20% more energy with these upgrades as well. So it does get easier as you work your way up the tech tree, but man, it's just really difficult to actually get there. And since the steam cores only output 1024, if you need to use anything that uses a lot of stress, like using the mechanical crafters, you still have to use these big these big cast iron boilers to output that kind of SU, because you can't get that much stress units anywhere else. Now, since I do have the ability to make steel, we can work our way up to the steel version of this, which can generate 4000 SU per tick. But with how much fuel they eat, you're kind of dependent on the fact that this guy does use a lot less, so you kind of just need to build up a pretty big bottleneck of sawdust briquettes to actually run it for a pretty short amount of time, which is insane to me when you think about it. But looking at the math, once you get your generator off of water and into steam, the range gets a lot bigger, it gets hotter, and it generates, I believe, 64,000 energy compared to 32, so you could run twice as much machines, which is pretty good. It just takes a very long time to get there. This pack is very grindy, and it's like the grind never gets shorter. Generally, the grind gets a bit easier as you progress, and it does in that it gets less tedious, but man, it never gets shorter. It gets less tedious, it never gets any shorter. But now for real, this episode has gone on quite long enough. I'm your host, Hamas28, and I'll see you guys next time.